Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the zoning board meeting of July 15th for the town of Rhinebeck. And first, I'd like to read opening statement. I have confirmed with the ZBA council that tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's executive order, which suspends certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing, and the governor's order which extends such suspension until, I believe, August 5th of 2020. And I suspect it's going to be continued, but at least that's what we have for tonight. As such, there is no in-person meeting for the ZBA, and this meeting is being conducted via Zoom video conferencing. In accordance with these executive orders, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's public meeting via Zoom or to watch a live stream of the meeting on the town's webpage. In further accordance with the executive order, a transcript will be made at a later date. This meeting's agenda has been duly noticed on the town's webpage, which notice was accompanied by information as to how to access and view this meeting. And again, I just want to thank everybody on the technical side for getting this going and for allowing this to occur. All right, the first item of business is to approve the prior meeting minutes of June 17th, 2020. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the revised meeting minutes?
Yes.
Do you have any questions, concerns, corrections, anything like that?
No.
Hearing none, I will move to approve the minutes as submitted for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for June 17th, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it's passed. We do not have any.
Scott, actually, do you want to just, for the record, just do a quick roll call just to do a.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's see. Dave Tobias.
Yes.
Okay, obviously Scott Bergen. Catherine Clark.
Yes.
Tim Aconopoli.
Yes.
All right, and Tim Allenbrook.
Yes.
All right, I think we are all here present and accounted for. And we have a quorum, which is the
Thank
important
you.
thing. Okay, so we don't have any new business for tonight. We do have 4 public hearings, and it is 7:05 according to my watch. So I think we can go forward with the Fox matter, which is the first matter on. And Dawn, I think you're up.
Hi, Patrick. Good, how are you?
Are you?
Dawn, are you ready to go forward?
I think Dawn needs to be unmuted.
Oh, she has to unmute.
There she goes.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello.
We can hear you.
All right, technical difficulties.
Okay, so you've been through this before. Basically, it's the public hearing. Is there anybody here present for the Fox application, the public hearing on the Fox application? Okay. Dawn, just if you could go through and explain, the board has a pretty good idea of what you want to do.
Sure.
We did a site inspection. Dave was kind enough to get that organized, but still, if you could go through
Just a
for
quick
public,
note.
what you want to do.
So we plan on renovating the existing 1-story guest cottage, which is currently being used for storage, into a 2-story studio and tractor barn. The intent is to keep the existing foundations on the first floor and the walls, and the second floor. Oh, hold on. Everything got huge on my screen. Anyway, and the second floor above would be all new construction. We're going to be removing the existing carport out in the front and putting a smaller pergola, so it'll be a smaller footprint overall, but additional square footage because we're going up. So what we're asking for is an area variance in the amount of, I believe, around 147 square feet for accessory structures.
Right. Okay, and as I understand it, you're taking a little bit off the side and then you're going to move up, correct?
Yep, we're taking the old carport off from the front
Mhm.
and then moving up.
And then the exterior of it is going to look more like what is already there and existing.
Exactly.
So
Yep, it's going to match the existing.
it'll
surrounding
match the
building.
existing. I know there's one bathroom in it already, and basically
Yeah.
that's going to be the bathroom. It's going to be refurbished, but that's going to be the bathroom that's there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just refurbishing. It's staying in the generally same location in
Right.
that front corner.
Yeah.
And we're just changing the fixtures around a little bit. And
Okay.
upstairs is just going to be Mr. Fox's office.
Thank you for the renderings, by the way.
You're welcome. A quick note on the renderings. We did remove the front gate and stone wall from the project. That's no longer part of the application.
Sorry. I was just trying to bring up the latest site plan that you had provided.
Okay, so what was removed?
On the original drawings, there was a low stone wall and a gate going across the driveway.
Okay,
We removed that from the project.
all right. Do the board members have any questions, concerns about the application? Again, is there anybody from the public on this webcast who would like to speak and be heard? Have questions about the application?
Sorry, it's Dave. I had trouble unmuting, but I do have a question or two.
Okay.
Dawn, can you just point out on the survey, on the site plan where the septic and wells are?
So if you see right above, right north of the existing building, there's the $1,000 septic tank and the dry well that are currently there, and we're just going to reuse. Department of Health came out, looked at it, and said that it is acceptable to be reused.
Okay, great. And do we have a letter? Do we have a copy of that? Thanks, Kim.
We don't have a copy of it right now. It's in the works. It's all being submitted in the next week or so. But we just have an informal agreement with the Department of Health and our civil engineer, informal conversation really, but it will be sent in shortly. So by the time planning board is approved at one point, then we should have everything.
Okay, great. So when you get a copy, if you could just send that to Chris, that'd be great.
Sure, will do.
Any other questions, concerns? All right. Again, thank you for the renderings. They're very helpful.
You're welcome.
And we did a site plan, or excuse me, a site inspection. Dave again set that up. So at this time, I think that we're ready to close the public hearing. But I want to hear from my board members. Anybody have any opinions on that issue? No? Okay, not hearing anything else. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
And can you do a roll call, Scott?
Should I do that when,
Well,
Okay.
just for anybody who isn't able to physically view this, it will just be helpful for anybody listening.
okay, so the motion is to close the public hearing. I'm in favor. Dave?
Yes.
Tim E?
Yes.
Tim T?
Tim A, yes.
Or Tim A, excuse me. Yes?
And Catherine, yes.
And Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, so the public hearing is closed. We have 62 days to render a resolution. And I don't recall,
That's me, Scott.
that's you, Dave. So you're going to be writing it up, and we'll probably have it. We usually are pretty good about having it ready for the next meeting, which is August. Chris, do you know what the date is?
Give me a second, I'll get it. Next, 19th, August
Okay.
19th.
Okay, so Dawn, hopefully we'll have the resolution ready for the August 19th meeting. You don't have to be present, but we'll probably have it ready and we'll probably read it.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Take care. The next, it's just after 7:10. So the next public hearing is the Baptist home. Is there someone here for the Baptist home to do the, okay. Patrick, you got on mute?
Is he here? He
Yep.
just, yes. Okay, got him.
Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay, good.
Okay, is there anyone here, anybody on this webcast who is interested in this application?
Yeah, I kind of took this application and, yeah.
Okay, well, I was actually asking about anybody from the public.
Yep.
All right. Patrick, if you could just go through the application again.
Okay.
We know what you want to do, but for the public, we need you to go through for the public hearing to explain again
Oh, sorry.
what the application consists of.
Now, I do have the PDFs on my desktop right now. Is that something you would like me to share? Can I share a view of that, or is that something you would want to do?
Well, either Kim or you can do it just to put it up on the screen so the audience can see.
Okay.
Yeah, is this your site plan?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, I will get it. I was just actually getting that. Any particular page, the one with the sign perhaps?
Well, what we could do is start from the first page, and I'll walk everybody through it, and then I'll immediately go right to the technical page in the back.
Okay, let me just share it. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Yep, great. Okay, so this is the cover sheet for the community, Brookmead. The client is proposing to change out their existing monument sign out in front along Route 308 at their address at 46 Brookmead Drive. So this particular application really just consists of 3 sheets. This one's the cover sheet. This shows the location of their property along 308. If you could go to the next slide for me. Okay, this is a blow up of the actual parcel, and Route 308 runs along the left-hand side of the sheet, and Brookmead Drive runs in, and that's the area highlighted on the left-hand side of the sheet. That's where the signage will actually be replaced. Again, the signage is the monument sign out in front, and we'll get to the technical part of this in a moment, but it's a monument sign showing the buildings that are on campus, not only for the nursing home, but for the assisted living, as well as the independent living. And also now the new adult day center that is just nearing completion. So if we would, the next sheet will actually be the blow up of where the sign is, and it'll show the elevations. Okay, this shows the monument sign in the small vignette on the lower left, showing that the monument sign exists, and it's approximately 25 feet in from the road edge. And the proposal is not to change out the stone walls, the plantings, or any of that. It's actually just the signage itself. So the existing sign that's there is a 23.85 square foot sign with a dark background with letters that are a bit hard to read. That's the one in the middle. And the proposed sign would be to replace that. And the proposal is to have 13.75 square feet each side for a total of 27.5 square feet. According to the zoning code, they're allowed 8 square feet. So the reason we're in front of the ZBA right now is to receive a variance of 19.5 square feet for the signage in area. The other variance that is being sought is for the percentage of lettering. Doing the calculations that you see there in that dimensioned elevation of the signage, we've calculated that the percentage of lettering comes to 61% of the sign area. the zoning code allows for 60% of the sign area to be for lettering. So we're seeking a 1% variance for that particular portion of the zoning code. But just to take a quick step back, again, you can see here that the existing signage will be removed. The stone and the plantings will remain as is, and the new signage will be the same exact width, essentially the same exact height. We're proposing to take the rounded portion out in order to make room, of course, for now the building, one of the new buildings that's on there on campus. So you can actually see the existing condition and what the signage will look like. And one of the reasons why they're switching to this light background and the green lettering is this will meet with their new design standard that they've set internally for the campus. And this will help with wayfinding, knowing what buildings are there on campus. And this will match some of the internal signs that occur inside the campus.
So the extra 4 square feet or so
Yes.
is really, instead of having the round out, you're squaring off the top?
Yes, yep. In fact, you can see in the dimensioned elevations that I have there that the height of the sign is the same. The apex of the round portion of the sign meets the top of the rectangular sign.
Okay. And I think you indicated the last time around that lighting remains the same.
Lighting will remain the same. That's not being changed.
So in essence, I mean, I obviously it's a different color. The lettering's a little different, but
Yes.
the main change is instead of having the you got the squaring up of the corners, which
Exactly.
changes the size by 4 square feet or so.
There's a few more letters, Scott, because there's 4 facilities being named now instead of 3. Is that correct?
Right.
Yes. And one of the reasons, for this, of course, is to bring into the fold the new building there that's on campus, and also to make it more legible for people on the street to see the sign.
Well, you can see Brookmead better, but it's as Tim pointed out, there's more lettering on the bottom, but that's smaller than what exists on the bottom of the current sign, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah, I think unfortunately it's actually each individual building is less legible than before.
But if you made it more legible, you'd have to ask for a bigger variance.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the main focus, of course, is that any clients or participants that will be coming to the campus, or any family members, they'll be coming to the Brookmead campus. That's
Right.
The main focus. And then when they're there on site, of course, then they are directed to the
Right, the
specific
other side.
building that they're going to. Right.
By the way, before I forget, I just want to note for the record that we did receive an email from Joanne Clark, it looks on July 9th, expressing some concerns about the sign, being a little bit bigger, being higher, and that those were her main concerns. It looks like that's part of the record. I don't know if you saw that or not.
We did.
Okay. I don't know if you want to respond to that or not.
The signage is not higher in the sense that we are matching the same apex of the existing signage. And yes, there is a slight increase in sign area, but that's based on just rounding off the apex of the arc
Right.
and squaring it off to put a rectangle in that area.
Okay, I believe, Chris, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the only comment we received from the public.
Yeah.
I think there was one other person who just had a general inquiry, and
Yeah.
I think that was taken care of.
Christine Green, yeah.
Okay.
And did Ms. Green have any particular comments to make, or what was her
No, I sent her the information, and she just said thank you. She was just inquiring what the
Okay.
application was,
All right.
concerns. So I didn't receive any concerns or comments.
I do have a question. What's the sign going to be made out of?
I do not have the construction drawings. I believe it's Timely Signs is the client's sign vendor. We could get that information to you, but I'm sure it will be a durable material that, wouldn't deteriorate over time.
Right.
But we could get that information to you if you require that.
I think it would be good to know. I mean,
Yep.
Aesthetically, could you go back to the drawing with the two versions of the sign side by side?
Yes. No,
Yeah, I guess this is strictly a personal reaction, but I think that the sharp corners on the new sign are much more obtrusive and than the curved. And I think that bothers me more than the lettering. The color doesn't, it's severe, but so I was just wondering as a possible middle ground to consider if one could keep the color of the lettering and put a curve on the top. Because I think that curve goes a long way to make it feel more residential than commercial.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can certainly discuss that with the client. I believe if any of the members of Brookmead have tuned in, they might be able to make a comment whether they'd be accepting to that. And I can certainly approach my client with that request if you require it.
Well, I'm just one of 5 here.
Oh, sure.
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, you're saying just kind of rounding off the corners there a little bit.
Well, or rounding them off to the original, even if it went up another 2 inches or something like that, but to keep the same soft curve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Okay.
Now we do have other signage, that they're trying to match internally. Right. So there's like a design motif that is occurring throughout the campus. So I think we want to.
Well, I recognize that. I recognize that. I only just,
sure.
That's why I'm not talking about color.
Oh, sure. Understood.
Are there members or representatives of Brookmead who would like to speak to that issue or any other issue?
don't see anybody raising hands or making any.
Brian, do you want to talk about it, or
Hello, can you hear me?
Karen?
Yeah, this is Karen. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's something I would have to talk to the team about. If you could give us an opportunity to discuss that.
Is I mean, is there any time sensitivity to this thing? I mean, would it be possible to continue the public hearing until August, so you have an opportunity to explore whether there could be a rounding of those top edges?
I mean, we are completing the building very shortly, and I believe the client wishes to have it approved as soon as possible, so that when the building is open and complete, that this can actually tie in aesthetically with what's going on inside the campus. Would there be
when are you completing, or when do you anticipate completing the project?
Well, right now we've actually completed the final punch list review, and they're getting ready to wrap up any last minute construction items on the site. But we can talk to our team internally about the schedule. But I believe the sooner the better would be best for the client.
Right, and all I'm suggesting is, I think that Tim's idea is a good one, and it might look better aesthetically, those two corners. If they were rounded off a little bit, maybe not exactly as the old sign, but just not as sharp as exists now in the current plan. And if you could provide that, maybe we could consider it at a public hearing in August, just as an alternative. I don't know. How does the rest of the board feel about that?
I kind of think I kind of agree with Tim. It starts looking too much like a billboard that, rounded edges, I think would be nice, actually. Would make it look better, I think.
I feel like Tim's suggestion is worth looking at, particularly if as a board we're willing to give a couple of inches in height if we could keep the rounded corners. The body, and part of that depends for the folks who are on, from Brookmead, is how important that umbrella is as part of the branding, because if you rounded the corners and raised it up a little bit, you might actually be able to get a little bit more legibility on the bottom part too, which that probably bothers me as much as anything, is that you're actually losing legibility of those other buildings. Maybe with your overall branding and how you're promoting Brookmead, that's not as relevant anymore, but visually you're losing some legibility.
Would it be
that
possible?
sorry.
Would it be possible to move forward with, the actual variances of the area and the percentage with a contingency of the design, or is that something you want to link more together?
I don't think we've ever really done that. Kim, do you have some ideas on that?
Well, whenever the board were to be granting approvals, they should really be granting approvals as to what is in front of them.
Right.
And in this case, the design
Yep.
is important. So we should have those designs before we grant any variances to know what the board is.
Why don't we do this? And maybe this is a middle ground, is we continue the public hearing until the August 19th, I think it is. Maybe in the next week or two,
Yep.
you could submit revised drawings encompassing the suggestions made by the board members. And then after the public hearing, assuming we close it in August on the 19th, we can have a resolution ready, to go on that evening. We've done that in the past, I believe.
Or a resolution for that evening? Okay.
Correct. So
Okay.
you give us that alternative, we can see what we're looking at, and there may be a change in the variance requested. As far as like a square footage, it may be a little less or something or other, whatever. But we can be ready if we have that ahead of us and can be provided to the public ahead of time. Maybe we can go forward with a resolution later in the evening.
Okay, after the close of the public hearing.
Kim, what do you say about something like that?
Yeah, I think that the board can go ahead and draft a resolution once they receive what the drawings are, but it is obviously contingent on if any further comments are received and
Right.
what the public hearing, what the results of the public hearing are. It doesn't hurt to have a draft, but it will have to be dependent as to what has been provided and what is discussed amongst the board at that meeting.
All right.
And I would also suggest, Chris can probably provide a little bit more information, but if those drawings can be provided, I believe it's about 2 weeks before the meeting. That way it has enough time to be available for the public to review, be available for the board to review. That would be suggested.
Okay, so I think based upon all the comments of the board members, what I'd like to do is to make a motion to continue the public hearing until August 19th. In the meantime, Patrick, if you could provide revised drawings, the sooner the better, so that the board members, the public have an opportunity to see these revised drawings. Tim, I think you're the one who's going to be writing up the resolution, so maybe have some kind of draft resolution. And we can, depending on what occurs on the 19th, we can, assuming what kind of comment we have from the public, et cetera, we can close the public hearing on that evening, and then later on, do a resolution. And perhaps we revise it a little bit more after the meeting, or after the public hearing is closed, but have a resolution for you later on that evening.
Okay. I mean, of course, I will be conferring with the client to make sure that they are in total agreement with the rounding of the sign.
Okay.
And if for some reason that, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but what would the implication be, say, for instance, that the design still wants to maintain this? Would we just open that public hearing or continue the public hearing and say,
Right.
okay, this is the sign?
Yes, we would just open that. You would let us know ahead of time that you're not prepared to make any revisions to the sign.
Yep.
And we would, again, open up the public hearing, take whatever comment there is, close it, and we would have the resolution.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so at this time, I would move to continue the public hearing open until August 19th. Tim E, yes, no?
Yes.
Tim A,
Yes.
David T,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and me, yes. Okay, so let us know what you're willing to do, and if you are willing to make those changes, which I hope you're able to give us another alternative, please provide it as soon as possible.
Okay. And if we had to, for some reason, depending on the shape of this, if it had to be increased a little bit in area, I know you can't give a definitive answer, but I mean, would there be the possibility of going with a slightly larger sign if we had to go with a rounded top?
I can't say for sure, but I can tell you right now, I mean, you're only increasing the size of the current sign by, say, 4 square feet.
Right.
And if aesthetically it looks a whole lot better in our eyes than the current proposal, I don't think that that's a heavy lift.
Okay.
And
That's my own personal opinion, but
right, and if there are any changes to the dimensions or to the variance request, it's just if you could just provide an update narrative for us so that we can consider that.
Okay. Do you need your revisions bubbled? Do you want to see a bubble around it with a target to indicate that that is changed? Say, for instance, we're changing the size of the sign or something like that.
Yeah,
We would put a bubble around it.
I think the comparison that you did with the old sign, to just do a comparison with any new rendering would be adequate.
Okay.
And then obviously the technical measurements that go with it.
Okay.
yes, the side-by-sides, I agree with Catherine, is probably the best. There's nothing like comparing the two next to each other.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your patience.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so I think that takes care of the Baptist home for this evening. And next up is Dunn.
Hi, I'm Michelle Harrington here for Bullenbecker.
Michelle.
Hi.
No.
You've been through this before?
Yeah.
So basically, by the way, is there anybody from the public here on this application? Okay. Michelle, if you could just take us through the design. The board is pretty familiar with this. And by the way, we're good for a site inspection tomorrow evening, I believe at 6. But if you could just take us through the application, that'd be great.
Sure. So the project we're proposing to do is convert a portion of an existing storage barn into a 2-bedroom accessory dwelling. The barn is located on a 71-acre parcel on Bullenbecker Road. The first area variance we are seeking approvals for is for the existing location of the barn, which is in front of the primary residence on the property. The second area variance we're going for is a increase in square footage due to the addition inside the interior of the barn shell, we're adding a second story floor. So I believe the increase in square footage is about 1,075 square feet.
Did you say that increase is over what's allowed, or it's?
Correct. Yes,
Yes.
it's over by 1,075 square feet.
So the
Okay,
total.
I had, and I could be wrong, my notes could be wrong. I had that the required or allowed habitable space is 900. You're proposing 2,334, so that the variance is 1,434. Is that?
Those numbers
off
sound
on
right.
that?
I'm reading off of the letter I received from the zoning admin,
Okay.
but your numbers do sound right.
I think that's what we have, at least according to the cheat sheet that Kim gave me.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I have. I'll double check those numbers, but
Okay.
I don't have the zoning determination in front of me. I'll verify that.
Okay. And can you, just for the public's benefit, just go through I know you went through the outside, I think the last time around, but I think we had asked for some inside.
Wow.
The beauty of Zoom.
Ouch.
Are you okay? Chris, are you okay?
Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I'm good. Just really quick, the zoning letter that you're referring to was the older one. It was from October 23rd, 2019. So the newer one from April 30th, there should be a copy for you. That's where the 1434 comes in.
Okay. I know I got multiple letters, so
Yes,
if you don't
did.
mind. Okay.
I
So-
can resend it if you need me to.
That would be great if you could. Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
And Michelle, if you could just take us through the new drawings that you supplied after the last meeting.
Sure. So this is the interior that we're proposing. As you can see, the north side is on the bottom half of the page. So that's the driveway side. So we're maintaining the front elevation. We're just improving the entryway. And then on the interior, it's a very open concept. We're actually preserving all the historical beams inside, and we're kind of building the structure around those beams to really show them off and preserve them. So the bottom floor is just the open public area with the one restroom. And then on the right side of the screen is the second story, which houses the 2 bedrooms and the open loft. Again, keeping most of the structure intact and preserving it. So it's kind of like a showpiece.
Is there any change to the footprint?
Nope, no change.
Okay.
The only change is the vertical add
Okay.
inside.
Board members, anybody have any questions, concerns about this? We'll have a better idea tomorrow when we go out and take a look at it.
So you're
Anybody?
adding 2 bedrooms. Is there a septic design for this, or?
Yes.
All being worked?
And Kim, do you happen to have the site plan there that we could just pan to?
So on the second floor that you're adding a full second floor in, are you raising the roof of the structure at all, or you're just utilizing the space that was there?
No, we're utilizing the space that is there. It's pretty generous, so.
Okay.
Okay, so Kim, if you want to zoom out a little bit. The
So
septic,
there's still a large portion of barn that you're not going to convert.
correct. As you can see on the site plan, there's the proposed 2 bedroom, and then to the right of it is 2 more portions of barn that is staying as is. So the septic follows down the path of a access road into what is currently a corralled area that was previously used for animals. Now it's been kind of abandoned, but that's where we're proposing to put the septic. And our plan is to go in front of the DOH for approvals, hopefully after we get a resolution on the variances.
So it would have its own well and septic? Is that?
Correct. Yeah, and then the well is just northeast of the barn.
Yep, I can see that on the site plan. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions or concerns, either board members or if any member of the public has joined us?
So the total habitable space is 2334. Just out of curiosity, what's the square footage of, or the habitable space in the house, in the primary residence?
That number I don't know offhand, unfortunately.
All right,
But I could get it to you, absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions, concerns? Anything? Okay. Since I haven't heard any other questions or concerns, I'd make a motion at this point in time that we close the public hearing. And I'm a yes for that. Tim E?
Yes.
Okay. Tim A?
Yep.
Dave?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes,
Okay. Michelle, we have 62 days to render a resolution. I think I am the one who is doing it. I am. I'm looking at the notes.
Yep.
We will be out there at 6 p.m. tomorrow, I believe, for you to give us a walk around. Myself, Catherine, and
Tim.
Tim. So we'll see you out there. But thank you for the presentation, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Great, thanks everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
thank you. Bye.
Okay, let's see. The next one on, it's 7. Oh, okay, we have plenty. All right. Patel and Mr. Stone, you're here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been through this before, I know.
We're also for the adjoining landowners, the garden home parties.
Okay,
Just froze for a
great.
sec.
Anybody else here for this application? All right, Mr. Stone, why don't you go through the request for the interpretation? What you're requesting?
Okay, well, we're requesting an interpretation of we have an 8-point request for interpretation that was filed some time ago, I believe in May. We're asking that the board overrule what the zoning administrator found, that there was no need for a number of permits here for a site plan permit. I'm sorry, for a site plan review, wetlands permit, special use permit, stormwater pollution prevention plan, special site plan permit, and then possible variance needed and setbacks. There are 2 other ones about addition of homes without a permit and proper storage of propane tanks. So those were all brought before the zoning administrator. The ruling was that there was no need for the town to issue any type of permit or have any type of oversight whatsoever on this project, which is estimated to cost $275,000. There is a bunch of intrigue that goes with this. All of the FOIL requests that we made for documents have been blocked. They've been obstructed up till now, so we don't have those materials. The Department of Health issued a stop work order. Apparently, a lot of the work has been going on under the radar, is not been reviewed. The construction is not. And we asked for an expedited hearing. We asked for a special hearing on this. We didn't get one. We think that it's wrong what's going on. There's been no oversight. Our engineer has been to the site. He sees leakage. He doesn't think it's constructed properly. Garden Homes said that they would put a sheet pile barrier between Mr. Patel's property and their property. They've refused to do that. They've instead put bin blocks there, which are poor, which have separations, which have voids in between them. We don't think a clay filler has been put in. And all of this has happened because the town has not exerted any oversight. And we think it's manifest that a project of this size requires permitting. At the last minute, Garden Homes at 3:10 p.m. this afternoon submitted supposed objections where they take a bunch of pot shots on all different topics, and they barely address three of the items that we brought up in our request for the board to interpret these areas of the statute in the town, okay? Ours are discrete requests, and Mr. Castelline for Garden Homes has submitted a written document at the last minute. They were served on July 6th with the notice of this meeting, and they waited until the last hour to submit this document, which is trying to muddy the waters, contains lies, misstatements. It is
Okay, well, I don't want to get into, I don't want to, the one thing I insist upon in my meetings is I don't want any ad hominem attacks. I don't want any I don't want any inflammatory characterizations, anything else. I understand spirited discussion. I'm an attorney as well. So the lies, that kind of stuff, if you could leave it out, but I understand.
Okay, I can prove, well, I can go down the document if you want me to, sir, but I really think that this is a bad faith filing to try to detour this board. This is an appeal which asks for interpretation of the code, whether what they're doing fits into the code or not. It should be limited to that. This is a broad brush treatment. What was put in this afternoon is a broad brush treatment. Attacks my client, attacks his property. It calls it a swamp when it's not a swamp. It's inappropriate, sir. That's my complaint.
Okay, and I understand your passion. I know that there's a long history behind this. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I just want to make sure that we don't get too far away from spirited discussions. Sometimes spirited discussions can break down into something else, and I just don't want that. Anyway, is there anything else you would like to say before I have the person from Garden Homes?
Well, again, I just asked
whatever he wishes to say.
Stick to the appeal sets forth 8 discrete points that need to be addressed, and we just asked the board to rule on those 8 points and close the meeting tonight. I would.
You're free. Okay.
24 hours. What Garden Homes put in at the last minute here.
Well, but by the way, I mean, I understand, and I just received the response from Garden Homes. You will certainly have an opportunity to respond to that. That's only fair. But at this point in time, I'd like to hear from the representative from Garden Homes.
Good evening. My name is Joe Castelline. Let me just quickly address the timing issue. As far as my client advised me, they were just provided with the public hearing notice last week. In terms of Mr. Stone saying there was a submission, we've never received that. So we don't have it. We weren't able to address it. It wasn't provided. The only thing we have is the notice, and the notice is limited to whether no permits or approvals were required because the work performed was modification to an existing sanitary system being performed with 100 feet of the stream. As I indicated in my letter, that's what we're providing. The notices, comments can be submitted to the board. So we submitted the comments in accordance with what the board's notice provided. So I don't know what the issue is about saying they were submitted too late. Let me just address a number of things here. This project is a result of ongoing litigation between the parties that's been going on since 2006. This park has been operating since the 70s. At the time, it had a DEC Speedies permit for a sand filter system of a smaller size that was servicing some of the homes on the park at the time. My clients purchased this park in 1984, And as soon as they purchased it, the DOH, the county DOH said, look, the system's falling apart. You need to repair it now. They were encouraging them to do new sand filter systems, so they did. So they basically took away the septics that were going out at the time and built this other sand filter system with the discharge location that was the same as it was in the 1970s before they bought it. And they were discharging in the same spot ever since. And the system has been maintained basically in the same way ever since 1984 with some updates over time. Based on this court decision, my client was required to conduct certain repairs to the system. So in order to redirect the effluent that's currently discharging on one side, and then you need somewhere to discharge it to. So we had to develop plans that basically is going to route it underneath the park along Route 9, and then into the stream running under Route 9 or 9G at the DOT, in the DOT right-of-way. In terms of what was argued here, my client started doing this work in February 2020. My client has been working with the DOT. The Dutchess County Department of Health is really the agency that has permitting authority and overseeing all of this work. My client's also been working with the DOT to get, the DEC to get an updated speedies permit, which the DEC issued in April, full knowledge and review of this project. But really it's been working with the DOH, and my client started doing a removal of certain clay berm that was supporting the existing sand filter because part of that berm was located on the Patel's property. So in order to properly repair that, they had to put in a retaining wall to keep, holding the system up. It's the same system in place. It's just all this work is being done to address the effluent, and it does cost money to do it. So that work was started to be done in February, and there's pictures attached to our submission showing the work that was done, I think, as of February 20th. And we did receive a stop work order from the zoning administrator. We feel it was a result of inaccurate information being conveyed to the zoning administrator. I did have conversations with the zoning administrator about the zoning code and to inform her what the project was. In 2019, myself, as well as the project engineer, Pretorius and Conrad, had reached out to the town to ask about possible wetlands permits, things that were needed. Ultimately, I have an email from Warren Raplansky saying, look, we talked about it. We decided that no wetlands permit was needed. So then when we started moving forward, we didn't seek any kind of permit because we were told it wasn't needed. But when talking with Michelle, reviewing the code, if you put what's the work at issue here that's being done, you realize it doesn't need any permits. Under the town zoning code, chapter 120, that's the wetlands law. There's a couple provisions that say what is prohibited, what is regulated, and then there's a provision that says what is a non-regulated activity, and that's at section 120-6C. It says non-regulated acts. The following are considered non-regulated acts and may proceed within regulated areas without a wetland permit. And it says maintenance and repair to sanitary sewage disposal systems. There's also a provision in there that says something under the jurisdiction of DEC where there's an approval been issued and the work is in compliance with that approval. That's also accepted. Further, under the wetlands law, it's clear that under the town code for a building permit, we cite the provision in our letter, it's 125-106B4, no building permit is required for a retaining wall. The wetlands law then lays out when it is triggered, and it's clear that in situations where no building permit is required, it's not triggered. It's only triggered when a building permit is required. And so after talking to Michelle and going through this, she agreed and said, I'm going to rescind the stop work order. There's nothing required there. The work still continues, and it continued after March 3rd, I think is when Michelle wrote to me clarifying it was rescinded. The work continued, the wall, there's other pictures in there showing as of today what the wall looks like, what the area looks like, and you can see there's no damage, there's no leaking, there's no anything going on. You can see the status of other. This is the one being shown now as, I believe that was taken in March. This one was also taken in March. You can see there's a couple pictures in there that show foliage and whatnot, leafy green. So those were taken more recently this week. That's the status of the front part of the treatment system from this week, where there's a new retaining wall there. And that's a shed that's part of a repair of the existing system because they had to move the chlorination shed to the other side of the park. So that's the work where it stands today. The zoning administrator rescinded the work. We moved forward. The county DOH did issue a stop work order, which isn't directly before the board on this, but again, it was our positions based on misinformation. The county lifted the stop work order. The county has been reviewing this work. The county was at the site recently. It was June 29th, I think. It's in my letter, where they were inspecting the site. They were inspecting the work, and they confirmed to my clients that there were no leaks with the walls and everything was fine. So we're going forward with the work. We think that the zoning administrator's determination, which is supported by actual sites to the wetlands law, whereas I haven't read Mr. Patel's submission, but I didn't hear anything from Paul explaining what sites control and why this work is subject to all these permitting and site plan permit and special use permit and variance and whatnot, when the plain language that is in our letter is clear that no kind of permits are required for this work, but otherwise the work is subject to DOH jurisdiction. We think the ZA administrator's determination was proper. I wasn't aware that this was filed in May. My client's position was, if they wanted to bring a challenge, they should have done it earlier. But again, we spent a lot of money in reliance on that. And we're moving forward with this to complete the project. So we would ask that the determination be left in place and that no interpretation is required here because the ZA made an appropriate determination.
Mr. Stone, would you like to respond?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Mr. Castelline attributes Svengali-like qualities to my client about being able to persuade people to do things, to act, without taking appropriate steps or appropriate investigation. Okay, the zoning administrator issued a stop work order based on what she felt was her interpretation. Mr. Raplansky decided to overrule her. We don't know why, okay? The Department of Health issued a stop work order based upon what they found to be violations. So I think his claim of magical powers it should be ignored. Mr. Castelline keeps straying away from there are 8 points in our appeal. Okay, he could have easily obtained that from Chris Hedges earlier in the week. I know another person who received the notice obtained our filing earlier in the week. This is a filing by Mr. Castelline based on his say-so. Okay, we put our town code, we put our citations in 8 separate bullet points, and we're asking that the board look at those points and overrule what the zoning administrator did. Mr. Castelline navigated point 1A is about the need for a wetlands permit. They spent hours at trial saying that this was the buffer for the stream was 100 feet, okay, which certainly encompassed where this work is being done, yet the zoning administrator says, no, I don't think it needs it. It's not within the buffer zone, okay? So that's an erroneous finding by the zoning administrator. She also points out that under 120-6 of the town code, ordinary maintenance is excluded. This is a total rebuilding of a system requiring $275,000 worth of effort. Okay, there be some type of minimal permitting or oversight over this is manifested. In her latest iteration, I believe, she claimed it was the modification to circumvent. She didn't even conform to the statute with this about ordinary maintenance. She claims in the zoning administrator claimed that it was a modification of a sewer system, okay, which somehow evades any kind of scrutiny by the town. We submit that Garden Homes, our submission also shows that merely to change a trailer, okay, merely to put the fence on top of the old system, they applied for a permit. So why in the world would this type of major work somehow evade the scrutiny of the town? And to me, it's unequal enforcement of the law. If they manage to get away with this, it's setting a bad precedent for every other application that's made, for people that want to do work, that want to do a minimal amount of work, that are subjected to the town, to the enforcement of the town code. This is a total evasion of the code. And as I said before, we've asked for FOIL documents as early as April 15th of this year, and the town has obstructed the production of those to boot. So I'd ask this board to take a fresh look, to take an independent look at the points we raise and to apply the law to those points.
If I could just respond to
Right.
four of
And,
those
well,
things
let me just
quickly.
respond before Mr. Castellone, before I let you, and I will
Sure.
let you respond. First of all, as far as the FOIL requests and all that kind of stuff, we have nothing to do with that. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. And I know there's a long history here. I'm going to let Mr. Castellone again speak. I don't want to go back and forth all night. I will tell you up front my thought, and I'll have to ask my board members about what they want to do, is I have not had a chance to take a look at Mr. Castellone's submission. I am actually an attorney as well, and I was actually doing law stuff when this happened. So I want to have an opportunity to take a look at this. I also, Mr. Stone, I want you to have an opportunity to respond to this if you want. And so my thought is, after hearing your two arguments this evening, is for you to be able to respond to Mr. Castellone's arguments, put this public hearing over until August, and it's my intention to close the public hearing in August, because I know there is some expediency here, but I do want to be able to take a look at this. We need the assistance of counsel. We have counsel, and I want to give them an opportunity as well. So that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going at this point in time. I just wanted to put that up front. And Mr. Castellone, if you could just address briefly whatever arguments of Mr. Stone you want to address.
Thank you. Just quickly about Warren Raplansky allegedly overturning Michelle's decision. I mean, Michelle issued a decision March 12th, signed by herself, saying, I've reviewed all the issues. I don't see any violations. So I'm not sure about Mr. Raplansky. The issue with trial had to do with Mr. Patel claiming he could develop his property and the limitations on his development, not as it pertained to repair work to the treatment system. And we're not rebuilding a treatment system. It's not a brand new system. The filter system is the same. We had to conduct repairs to remove part of the clay support berm that was going onto Mr. Patel's property. We had to repair that and put in this retaining wall so it would properly support the filter system. It's the same filter system. The chlorination treatment shed, part of it is located on the Patel property. And so we had to repair it and move it to the other side. And then with the effluent discharge, there was a pipe that was going out onto Mr. Patel's property. So in order to get that to another water source, we have to underground dig, which is more expensive than difficult, but they directional drill under the park through an area along Route 9 and then get it to the stream so it can go into the water. Those are the components we're talking about. Because of the difficulty of the layout of the park, it is costly. But in terms of difficulty of the project, it is not difficult. But ultimately, the sand filter is still the same filter. It's not a new system. It's just the components to get that effluent discharging away from Mr. Patel's property. And I'd request that I'd be able to respond to the initial appeal. I just was never provided it. My client doesn't have it. So we would like to be able to address what was said there. Well,
You can get whatever information you need from talking to Chris Hedges. Mr. Stone's right on that the file is fully available to you. So I would urge you to get whatever information you need from Chris. She's excellent. And she does a great job, and she'll get you the stuff that you need as soon as possible. So if you need stuff, talk to her and you'll get it. Mr. Stone, one last word.
Mr. Berg, here's the problem, is that the last page of Mr. Castelline's submission claims that we filed late. We're trying to delay things. I'm trying to expedite things, okay? And they're trying to run out the clock, essentially. The thrust of his letter is, hey, we've done all the work now, no harm, no foul. My engineer found leakage. He gave you some nice pictures. I have pictures of this, the wall leaking, okay? We don't want to fight with Garden Homes, okay? We've had to fight with them for 12 years. We wish it would be over. We just want them to build it correctly, okay, according to code, according to proper engineering practices, and do it aesthetically. And we just can't seem to get over that hurdle here. And so I would respectfully ask, if there's no one else here from the public who wants to be heard, that the meeting be closed and that we each be given a brief period of time to make further submissions. Mr. Castelline's already put in 22 pages. I mean, I don't know how much more is needed to interpret the code. I think the board is very capable of looking at this, looking at what the code says without all of the surrounding noise.
Well, I don't know what Mr. Castellone's submission is because I haven't had a chance to review it. And really, the reason I want to put this over to the 19th is threefold maybe. One, I want to be able to see what he has to say. Two, I want you to have an opportunity, if you so choose, to respond to it. And three, I want to give the board and our council plenty of time to look at both sides of this issue. And I will tell you that it is my intention to close. This isn't going to go on and on and on. As you know, public hearings can go on and on and on forever. My intention is to close it on the 19th and be able to address it shortly thereafter. So that is where I'm coming from. I'd like to hear from my other board members. What are your thoughts, if any?
I agree with your statement that I haven't really reviewed it either, all the documentation, but I think definitely council should have a part in it. That, I mean, no decision is going to be made tonight, I don't think. So.
And if I could add, just for the record, my letter is 5 pages with pictures.
Tim, any thoughts? Catherine, Dave, Kim?
I have nothing other than would like time to review the materials before we can make a decision.
I agree with your approach, Scott.
All right.
And I would just like to add, I agree, Scott, as well. I think this will give the board time to digest the materials, come up with any questions they may have, and be able to ask those questions at the next board meeting. I would ask that if any further submissions be provided by either Garden Homes or Mr. Patel, if they could be submitted 2 weeks. I think that's what we had asked for the other applicants.
Yes.
This way it gives us time to review them so that we can be able to have them fully reviewed. And I would also ask if, since as Mr. Stone said, it seems like it's just Garden Homes and Mr. Patel that are interested, if Scott, you agree, if we could have an agreement that will provide, you'll each provide each other with your comments so that we don't have another issue where someone says they haven't gotten something. If you agree with that, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And 14 days, I think is fair. And I'd like to have that as a hard deadline, and everybody to exchange whatever information they're going to provide to us so that there's no issues here, because I do want to close this meeting on the 19th of August.
That would be by August 5th, before the 19th.
Whatever the math is.
Submission, I think the deadline, if I'm calculating, would be August 5th.
August 5th.
Mr. Bergen, if I may,
Yes,
please.
sir.
Could Mr. Castelline submit his papers within a week, and then I'll respond to his papers? I mean, I have no idea. He's now going to have 2 different versions running around. I don't know what his specific objections are to our 8 points. I'd like to see those objections and then reply to those objections. I think that's the more orderly way to do this.
Paul, if
Right,
you
so-
can email me your submission, I'll put something together in the next week.
I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we'll submit by August 5th any reply to that that's needed. Is that fair?
It's fair. Is that a
And
good
I-
briefing schedule, as we say in the business?
And I think that's fair that Mr. Stone as the applicant, or Mr. Patel, being represented Mr. Stone as the applicant, does be able to get the final rebuttal to whatever Garden Homes would say. So if that schedule is fine with you gentlemen, I think that's a great schedule to go with.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Great, thank you very much. And I look forward to, well, first of all, I have to make a motion. So I'm going to make a motion, then I'll do a roll call. A motion is to continue the public hearing until August 19th. Tim E,
Yes.
Tim A,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
and me, yes. All right, gentlemen, we'll look forward to your submissions and we will see you on the 19th.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Say something.
What's
Hello?
that?
Yes,
think-
this is Mr. Patel. Can I use couple minutes,
No,
please?
no. Mis-
I leave it to you, Mr.
Mr. Key,
Stone.
no, I'll do the talking. That's okay. I'll talk to you in a minute. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the two last items that we have, and that is a couple of resolutions. If I'm correct here,
And the voting on Rock Ledge.
and the voting on Rock Ledge. You want to do that first? So I don't forget it?
Sounds good.
Okay. I don't know if there's is there an actual vote that's required? I mean, I know
I would just, Scott just mentioned that Rock
they
Ledge
have a
has-
request
for an
that the
extension.
public hearing be held open until August 19th, as I recollect.
Yes.
Yes.
And Kim, does that require a motion to
You
approve
can
that
just make a
application?
motion to accept their request and to move the motion, move the public hearing to August 19th.
Okay, and so I'll make that motion. I'll adopt that motion of Kim. Tim E?
Do you have a second?
All right, do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, Catherine? Tim E?
Yes.
Tim A?
Yeah.
David?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
And yes for me too. Okay, so the public hearing has been put over for Rock Ledge until August 19th. All right, we have two resolutions. And the first resolution is, I'm just trying to read.
Old Primrose.
Old Primrose, that be me. Okay, I will read that. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the resolution as corrected or improved by Kim? It should have been sent to everybody.
Yeah, just before we start, I'm going to have to recuse myself.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. All right, did everybody else get a copy of the resolution with the changes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, I'm just going to read through it. This is a resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the area variance application of Old Primrose LLC, ZBA case number 995, and background. The applicant is Old Primrose LLC. Hereinafter, the applicant. The applicant is requesting a single variance to convert an existing barn to a two-bedroom detached accessory dwelling. The barn is 1,750 square feet, and the application calls for 550 square feet of the second floor to be removed. This will reduce the size of the barn to approximately 1,200 square feet. The subject application and request for variance results from the determination letter from the Town of Rhinebeck ZEO dated December 17th, 2019. The letter confirmed that there is a maximum of 900 square feet of habitable space allowed for an accessory dwelling in the RC5 zoning district, and accordingly, a variance of 300 square feet is required. The property involved is located at 6 Old Primrose Hill Road, Rhinebeck, New York, bearing a tax parcel number, and that's set forth in the resolution. The applicant's property is approximately 6.5 acres and located in the RC5 zoning district. The owner is represented by Darren Davidovich of the Art of Building LLC. The applicant, description of the project, the applicant seeks to convert an existing 1,750 square foot barn into a 200 square foot, 2-bedroom detached accessory dwelling. Site plan drawings and the renderings were submitted to the board. A number of area variances required. The zoning enforcement officer reviewed an updated site plan and special use permit application for fence permit and accessory dwelling. By letter dated December 17th, 2019, the ZEO advised the applicant that the maximum amount of habitable square footage allowed was 900 square feet for an accessory dwelling in the RC5 zoning district. Accordingly, the applicant needs an area variance of 300 square feet. The variance is from section 125-68E4 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. The ZBA review. The applicant filed an appeal with the board on January 29th, 2020 and has paid the requisite fees. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the date of the ZEO's decision, and thus the application is timely as required under section 125-125B of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Acceptance of the application. The applicant provided the ZBA with a presentation on February 19th, 2020, at which date the ZBA, that should be, I guess, or on which date the ZBA deemed the application complete. Because of a potential conflict of interest, board member Tim McConopoulos recused himself for the review of the application. There's a period there. Seeker and planning board approval. After accepting this application, the ZBA determined this matter should be classified as a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or known as seeker, because the project involved the granting of a variance to increase maximum square footage of an accessory dwelling. Upon motion, the application was classified as a type 2 action under section 617.5C12. No further environmental review is required. Referrals and responses. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, as required under section 125-125E of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. This application was referred to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board on February 19th, 2020. The Planning Board on March 4th responded to the referral by finding that the requested variance raised no significant planning or environmental concerns. It was determined that no referral was required to the Dutchess County Planning Board, the Waterfront Advisory Committee, or the Conservation Advisory Board. Site visit. On July 9th, 2020, ZBA members Catherine Clark, Tim Allenbrook, and Scott Bergen visited the subject property and surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand site conditions, property characteristics, setting around the environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. The purpose of this visit was to observe the property and the surrounding area to inform the board members to support the decision made herein. The site visit was conducted solely to gather information, and no business or deliberations were conducted during the site visit. Public hearing. A public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and held at the Town Hall on June 17, 2020. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the public hearing was held virtually, pursuant to New York State Executive Order 202.1, which suspended certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow a municipal board to convene meetings during the current pandemic via video conferencing. The public was afforded the opportunity to review and participate during this hearing. Doug Westcott from 517 Ackert Hook Road inquired about the structural soundness of the building. The applicant's representative acknowledged that the building had been in poor condition previously, but has been stabilized and is presently in better condition. Also, the construction plans call for structural repairs to the barn. The explanation given by Mr. Davidovich was satisfactory to Mr. Westcott. Mr. Davidovich again described the project and reviewed the site plan and renderings and answered questions of the board members. After all questions were answered, the public hearing was closed on June 17th, 2020. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. The balancing test. In our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefits to the applicant if the area variance is granted, as weighed against detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We determined that the variance requested should be granted because there is no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of the variance. Consideration of the 5 factors in balancing test. In our review of the variance sought and the consideration of the balancing between the benefit to the applicant as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community, we have considered the 5 factors required by section 125-124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law as follows. A, if the variance is granted, will it cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find that the answer to this question is no. There'll be no change to the structure externally. In addition, the application calls for improvements to the existing structure, including structural improvement. The proposal will enhance the condition of the existing barn and will improve its appearance. B, can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible to the applicant to pursue other than an area variance? We find the answer to this question is no. The building itself is currently on the property and has been on the property for many years. The applicant is actually reducing the square footage as part of the plan. In fact, the applicant is reducing the square footage by 550 square feet. Is the requested area, this is C, is the requested area variance substantial? We find the answer to this question is no. Again, the existing structure consists of 1,750 square feet. This is 850 square feet more than the maximum allowable of 900 square feet. The applicant seeks to reduce the square footage by 550 square feet, thus reducing the potential size of the variance requested. Far from being substantial, the proposal actually reduces the square footage of the structure. The applicant's proposal is reasonable, logical, and will only improve the property. D, will the proposed variance have an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find that the answer to this question is no. The proposal will only enhance and improve the property as well as the surrounding neighborhood. And then E is the alleged difficulty self-created. We find the answer to this question is no. Again, the existing structure has 850 square feet more than is allowed. The proposed plan will reduce the square footage substantially. Paragraph 14, minimal variance requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors in the balancing test, we must also determine if the requested variance is considered the minimum necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant, while also preserving and protecting the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. We find that the answer to this question is yes. The building has existed on site for many years. It has been and continues to be non-conforming. The application calls for the building to be more in compliance with the existing zoning law, and removal of the 550 square feet from the structure actually reduces the variance that is being sought. We find that the application is reasonable and in fact a positive improvement to the property itself and the neighborhood. 15, result of the balancing test based upon our analysis of the 5 factors we discussed above and the consideration of having the minimal variance requested. We find that the balancing test favors granting the area variance sought. Now, therefore, be it resolved based upon all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. Section 1, the ZBA hereby grants the variance from zoning law, section 125-68E4, which limits the square footage of an accessory structure to 900 square feet of habitable space, finding that the benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment, to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. The variance of 300 square feet is supported by the balancing of the 5 factors as discussed above. 2, the granting of the variance is expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application in full compliance with Article 14 fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. This variance shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. 3, the granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and or approvals. And finally, section 4, the variance shall be null and void unless the construction pursuant to the plan is begun within 1 year of this resolution. The construction must be in conformity with the site plan, the renderings, the application, and all other information forwarded to the ZBA. Comments? Nothing?
Looks good.
Questions, concerns?
Read like a real lawyer.
What's that?
Read like a real lawyer.
Yeah, to me, this was an easy lift. It's a beautiful project, a beautiful site. It was pretty clear on doing the site inspection that the owner, along, of course, with Mr. Davidovich, has done a fine job with improving the property. The landscaping was beautiful. The pool area, the barn, the whole 9 yards. Everything was top shelf. It looked great, and reducing the square footage to me was also something that was very positive. And the barn is going to be greatly improved. It's kind of a rough structure now. So anyway, I thought that the application was an easy one to grant because it certainly will improve the neighborhood and improve the property. So any comments, anything like that? None? Okay. So at this time, I make a motion that we grant the resolution as read. And Chris, would you poll the board, please?
All right, do you need a second?
Oh, I need a second. You're right. Thank you.
Second.
Now you can poll the board.
All right, Tim Ellenbrook,
Aye.
Scott Bergen,
Yes.
Dave Tobias,
Indeed.
Catherine Clark.
Yes.
Okay,
And Tim is recused.
Tim
All
is-
right. And the last one is Catherine. I think it's yours, right?
It's mine.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the variance application of 437 Route 308 Smith Tannery Place Trust, ZBA case number 996.
I'm back up. I'm back on.
Oh,
Okay,
thank you, Tim.
thanks, Tim. Background, applicant. The applicant is Roger K. Smith, Smith Tannery Place Trust, referred to hereafter as the applicant. Property involved. This appeal involves property located at 437 Route 308, Rhinebeck, New York, which bears the tax parcel number 1350896270002807445. The applicant's property is 15.277 acres and located in the RC5 zoning district. Representation. The applicant is represented by Mark Graminsky, PE, Michael Walsh of Walcott Builders Incorporated, and Michael Bird, architect. Description of proposed project. The applicant proposes an addition to the principal residence. This attached addition would include a 2-car garage, storage, laundry room on the first floor, and an upstairs bathroom. In addition, the applicant proposes renovation of an existing accessory structure to repurpose a large game room into 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. This renovation would not increase the existing footprint of the already converted barn. The applicant is also requesting that 2 of the existing accessory structures be designated as accessory dwellings. In parallel, the applicant is requesting site plan approval and special use permits for the construction of the garage and designation of the 2 accessory structures as accessory dwellings from the Rhinebeck Planning Board. Number of area variances required. The zoning enforcement officer, or ZEO, issued a review of the applicant's building permit application on January 31st, 2020, identifying the need for 3 area variances. The property currently has 4 accessory structures, all of which will remain, and the garage, although attached, is considered a 5th accessory structure under the Rhinebeck zoning law. Area variance 1 and 2 is from section 12568E4, which states that an accessory dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 900 square feet of habitable space in RC5 districts. Accessory structure 1, which already exists, has 1,436 square feet of habitable space. The variance requested is for 536 square feet. Accessory structure 4, which already exists but will be renovated, is 4,073 square feet. The variance requested is for 3,173 square feet. Area variance number 3. Section 12527A4 states that the total aggregate area for all accessory structures shall not exceed 1,500 square feet. The proposed aggregate is 6,887 square feet. The variance requested is for 5,387 square feet. It is noted that there is no variance required for the total number of accessory structures if a property is over 10 acres, because a special use permit can be issued by the planning board for the additional accessory structures. This property is 15.277 acres, thus the applicant is currently before the planning board for a special use permit for the number of accessory structures. Section 2, ZBA review. Timeliness of appeal. The applicant filed an appeal with this board on February 3rd, 2020, and has paid the requisite fee. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the date of the ZEO's determination, and thus the application is timely as required by Section 125(125)B of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Acceptance of application is complete. The applicant provided the ZBA with a presentation on February 19th, 2020, on which date the ZBA deemed the application complete. SECRA and Planning Board approval. After accepting this application, we determined that the Planning Board would take the lead pursuant to SECRA. The Planning Board determined it was a type 2 and completed their review. No further environmental review is required. Referrals and responses. Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board. As required by Section 125(125)E of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law, this application was referred to the Town Planning Board, and the Town Planning Board responded on March 4th, 2020, finding that the requested variances raised no significant planning or environmental concerns. It was determined that no referrals to the Town of Rhinebeck Conservation Advisory Board were required pursuant to Chapter 9, Sections 95A1, 95A8, and 96A of the Town of Rhinebeck Town Code, nor to the Town of Rhinebeck Waterfront Advisory Committee pursuant to Chapter 118 of the Town of Rhinebeck Town Code, because no criteria for such referrals were met. Site visit. On April 11th, 2020, ZBA members Scott Bergen, Timothy Allenbrook, and Catherine Clark visited the subject property and surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand site conditions, property characteristics, settings, surrounding environment, and character of the neighborhood. Other board members felt they were familiar with the property and the neighborhood and are able to make an informed deliberation on this application based on their existing knowledge. The purpose of this site visit was to observe the property and the surrounding area to inform board members to support the decision made herein. The site visit was conducted solely to gather information, and no business or deliberations were conducted during the site visit. The property has frontage on both Pilgrim's Progress Road and Route 308. The house of a neighbor to the north is about 50 feet from the property line and about 140 feet from the barn that is referenced as accessory structure 4. There is a partial barrier of trees, including some evergreens, between the properties. In addition, the subject property has a pool, tennis courts, a stable, and paddocks. Public hearing. A public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and held via Zoom on June 17th, 2020, pursuant to New York State Executive Order 202.1, which suspended certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law to allow a municipal board to convene meetings during the current pandemic via video conferencing. The public was afforded the opportunity to view and participate during this public hearing. Although no members of the public were present during the public hearing, an email dated 5/10/20 was received by this board from Jay Burgess and Rose Ann M. Fritz, which expressed concerns about the potential for commercial use of the facilities. A subsequent email was received by this board on 6/17/20 by Mr. Burgess, stating that he participated in the planning board's June 15 meeting, and during that session, Mr. Smith allayed my concerns about any commercial activity occurring at his property. Additionally, an email dated 4/17/20 was received by this board from Rose Ann M. Fritz, which inquired about the application. The ZBA secretary sent her the information along with the changes made to the application, and no further information or concerns have been received. Mr. Smith reiterated as part of the public hearing that the property would be used by the family with no intended commercial use. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. Balancing test. In our review of the variances sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variances are granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. Consideration of 5 factors in balancing test. In our review of the variances sought and consideration of the balancing between the benefit to the applicant as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community, we have considered the 5 factors required by section 125.124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law as follows. A, if the variances are granted, will they cause an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find the answer to this question is no. The proposed addition of a 2-car garage will be visually integrated with the design of the house. The scale is in keeping with the rest of the property and as such will have minimal impact on the views of any neighbors. The improvements to the barn will maintain the existing footprint to minimize any impact on the neighborhood. The 2 accessory structures already have their own water, sewage, kitchens. The request is to officially designate them as accessory dwellings that conform to applicable local and state code. Minimal alterations will be made to the barn to meet egress requirements and add an additional bathroom. Both of the accessory structures that require variances as accessory dwellings were built in the early 1800s at the time the main house was constructed. They maintain the look of agricultural outbuildings. The improvements done in 2004 to the barn to convert it to a pool house game room were completed with building permits in place. The living space in the other building predates our current zoning code. Can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variances being sought? We find the answer to this question is no. There are 2 primary benefits desired by the applicant. 1, the addition of a 2-car garage where no garage now exists. And 2, the designation of 2 existing structures as accessory dwellings. The first benefit cannot be realized without new construction, subject to a variance for the aggregate square footage of all accessory structures, as the existing structures already exceed the 1,500 square foot limit allowed. The designation of the 2 existing structures as accessory dwellings each require a variance because the size of the habitable space in each instance exceeds the 900 square feet allowed. Are the requested area variances substantial? We find the answer to this question is yes. The total variances amounting to an aggregate of 5,387 square feet is substantial. However, 2 of the structures were built in the early 1800s for agricultural use, and their size accounts for the majority of the 5,387 square feet requested. The request for an attached 933 square foot garage seems reasonable and not substantial for a property and house of this size. Will the proposed variances have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find the answer to this question is no. The original layout and agricultural feel of the property will be maintained. The stated use will be as a family compound with no commercial use, e.g. rentals. There is adequate parking for each of the requested accessory dwellings. They each have their own water and sewage, and in case of any failures, a septic plan for the entire property has been prepared and approved by the Dutchess County Board of Health. Is the alleged difficulty self-created? In regard to the addition of the garage, we find the answer to this question is yes. The applicant could forego the addition of a garage, which would reduce the number and size of the variances needed. In the case of the 2 accessory structures, we find the difficulty is not self-created. The accessory structures that would be designated as accessory dwellings were converted to habitable space prior to the purchase by the current owner, and the applicant is only asking that the designated use reflect the intended use. And in the case of the barn, it will be upgraded to meet current code requirements for egress. Minimal variance is requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors and balancing test, we must also determine if the requested variances are considered the minimum necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant, while also preserving and protecting the character of the neighborhood and the health, safety, and welfare of the community. We find the answer to this question is yes. The size and design of the garage is in keeping with the rest of the property. A 2-car garage for a 5,122 square foot house is typical for the area. In using the 2 existing buildings for accessory dwellings, the applicant maximizes use of the buildings already on the property without expanding their footprint. The majority of the variances requested relate to existing structures on the site and are requested to bring these structures into compliance with the zoning law for their new designation and use. Result of the balancing test. Based on our analysis of the 5 factors discussed above and the consideration of having the minimal variances requested, we find that the balancing test favors granting of the area variances sought. Now therefore be it resolved, based on all of the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above, as follows. The ZBA hereby grants the 3 area variances described below. Area variance 1. Zoning law section 12568E4 states that an accessory dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 900 square feet of habitable space. Accessory structure 1, which already exists, is 1,436 square feet. The variance granted is for 536 square feet. Area variance 2. Zoning law section 12568E4 states that an accessory dwelling unit shall have a maximum of 900 square feet of habitable space in RC5 districts. Accessory structure 4, which already exists, has 4,073 square feet of habitable space. The variance granted is for 3,173 square feet. Area variance number 3. Zoning law section 12527A4 states that the total aggregate area for all accessory structures shall not exceed 1,500 square feet. The aggregate will be 6,887 square feet. The variance granted is for 5,387 square feet. The granting of these variances are contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application, in full compliance with Article 14 fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. These variances shall not be deemed granted until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. The granting of these variances does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. The proposed garage and the renovation of the barn must be constructed in conformity with the application and plans submitted. The variances shall be null and void unless the required building permit is applied for within 1 year of this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved. Based on the facts and reasoning described above, the ZBA hereby grants the subject area variances requested, subject to the stated conditions. The decision to grant these variances is supported by a balancing of the factors discussed above. We find that the likely benefit to the applicant outweighs any potential detriment to health, safety, property values, and welfare of the neighborhood or community.
Well done.
Are there any questions?
I just have one spelling correction. On section 1 under the paragraph 15, area varies number 2, it says it's just should be a maximum. It says a maximum, so just change that too.
Okay, do you see that, Chris? Can you make that correction?
Yeah, no problem.
Any other comments from anybody? Okay, I make a motion that we accept and pass this resolution.
I will second that. Chris, you want to poll the board?
That's Tim Allenbrook,
Aye.
Scott Bergen,
Yes.
Dave Tobias,
Yes.
Catherine Clark,
Yes.
and Tim Econopoli.
Yes.
All right. Good job, Catherine. That was very well done.
It's a beautiful property. It seemed confusing when we first went through the first proposal, but going and visiting, it was very clear what was going to be done and very well presented, and it was a pleasure to go do the site visit.
It was. We didn't want to leave.
Yeah, in fact, I think we offered up having our meetings there.
Anyway, good job. And I think that's all we have. Kim, is there anything else?
No, I think just adjournment.
Okay. Again, if anybody wants to go on that site inspection on the Dunn property, that's at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So the more the merrier. It's on Bolenbecker. So if I don't see you then, I'll see you in August.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, Fred.